Live from Nairobi, Kenya, on the Artist First World Radio Network, it's time for another broadcast of Africa Creates, a program dedicated to African creativity. Past shows are available free on demand. Visit the Africa Creates archive page on artistfirst.com. And here's your host, Vered Ehsani.
Hi, this is Vered Ehsani of Africa Creates. Right now I'm at the University of Nairobi, in downtown Nairobi, in their Fab Lab. And I'm with Daniel Duwa, who's going to first of all tell me what Fab Lab means, and then he's going to tell his story.
Okay, Fab Lab is a fabricated lab. Basically, it's an innovation lab or hub for young people, not young people generally, but everybody walks in, and if you have innovation or some sort of idea, you can have it created. So something of that nature.
Okay, and I was very impressed because Fab Lab actually has the first 3D printer that I've seen, so that was really cool.
It's awesome.
Okay, so Daniel, why don't you tell us a little bit of, you were starting to tell me a story about how you got into what you are into, and we're going to talk about that. It sounds like you're a very creative person and you explore different media to tell stories. And so maybe you can just share how that started off.
I don't think I'm necessarily creative. I think I'm just curious in many ways. But one of the major problems in this growing up in this country was you didn't have a lot of options. You had one government, you had one radio station, one TV station that opened at 4 o'clock, closed at before you are ready to sleep. So basically what we did in those days, you either listened to shortwave radio, which was the internet of those days, or you came up with your own stuff. And one of those days, a friend of mine made a transistor, and he could broadcast on an empty channel, frequency rather. So what I did was just play some rock music. And in those days, you didn't play rock music. So it became a pirate radio station. I was about 10 years old. I didn't even know it was a pirate radio station.
So at the age of 10, you became a pirate?
It seems, yeah. It seems. Yeah. I wish I had like swords and stuff.
So what happened to your pirated radio station?
Within 3 days, I had like the security people come over in plain clothes, and that was a really scary thing. And they shut it down, and they took me and took a statement from me, and I was really threatened. But that made me even more agitated to do something. So we found ways to get around it. I don't know if we did get around it, but we sort of found a way to get around it. And that was the start of the struggle, or the creativity, if you like.
And this was during the days of Moi or Kenyatta? It was Moi.
During the Moi era.
The early days of Moi
the second
era.
president now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And we certainly know that during that time there was quite a lot of oppression of, as you say, of the arts, which actually I didn't realize as much, but the arts, of political freedom of speech. So it was quite an oppressive regime. Although on the outside everyone claimed it was a democracy, but it was quite oppressive. And you've just shared one incident as a 10-year-old with your little radio station playing rock music. I
didn't even know there was oppression until one time my uncle was into reggae music, and there was a group called UB40 from the UK. And there was a song called There's a Rat in the Kitchen, which was... I think an adage for the Moi government and the kitchen cabinet. And this was in the early 80s. Yeah. And when that song played and it was burnt in this country, I realized there was something wrong. And I couldn't understand. I was a kid. I couldn't understand why we couldn't listen to the music we wanted to listen to. And after that happened, I thought, no, we should be able to listen to what we need to listen to. And that's when the struggle started for me. I am not a lawbreaker or anything like that, but I thought, why should you be told? And then also in those days, the police could just come into your house and inspect your house for no good reason. So I didn't understand why you'd be sleeping at night in your own house and people walk in. It was really scary. Not with weapons, but anybody could come and take your house, and I thought that wasn't right. And I was raised in 2 places, basically. In Nairobi, very cosmopolitan, but then also at a research station which had like 15 research centers. So I didn't understand why you be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is, and somebody walks into your door and ask you to, without your permission. I mean, so that's what educates how I feel about things today.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And what inspired you to start looking at stories? Because the first thing you said to me when I asked you, what do? You say, essentially, I'm a storyteller. So where does that come from? Clearly, there's a background of wanting to make sure there's some freedom of information and freedom of artistic expression. Yeah. But how did that lead you into storytelling?
In fact, two things: the operation itself, and the second thing is when I was very young, when I was about 2-3 years old, I was clinically dead for three times, and then I had a chronic condition and had an operation. So
wait, back up a bit. Hang
yes.
on. How were you clinically dead?
My heart stopped.
Okay.
Yes.
For what reason? Do you know?
I have never been told.
Wow.
Yeah, but 3 times. I'm told 3 times. But what I can remember very well is being at the National Hospital and for years living there, on and off. Yeah, and then one of this time I was about 8 years old. I had an operation, and it took me a while to recuperate. And I think that's what made me a nerd in many ways. So you tend to be very introverted, but if you're introverted, you watch a lot. And because I was very shy, still very shy, and that's why I do very public things to hide my shyness.
Yeah, I really got the impression you were shy. Not really.
I'm very extremely shy. So,
okay, well, you've covered it well.
Yeah, so I do very public things. So in those days, what happened is I turned 10, my parrot radio is locked, is shut down. And then when I was about 13, I met a very interesting girl. And, puppy love, and, you're interested in her, and she was a family friend. She broke my heart, really. Mm-hmm. And I never wrote before that. So I started writing this small thing on a piece of book. And I didn't know that was poetry. Mm. And poetry was born then. So
you hadn't studied poetry in school before?
Nothing. Okay. Even my English, two things. Okay. My stories get to be a bit weird and complicated. So I started writing poetry. I'm about 13 years old. And then my friends come to their house and steals one of the pieces and gives it to an editor who's the sister. And the editor publishes it without permission and then goes like, who wrote this? Mm. And I was very shy. I couldn't. So that's how that started. And now my train of thought is just lost totally.
No
Shyness,
problem.
Yeah.
So you started writing poetry because of a broken heart,
yes.
And your first published piece was actually stolen and published without your permission,
yes.
But it still got published.
Yes.
Did that lead to now some more interest in writing? You thought, wow, I should take this more seriously, or what happened?
No. I only wrote because it was a good channel, because I never used to talk to anyone, so it was a good channel to get things out of my chest. But she insisted I write, so I wrote my stuff. I didn't write with my name. The deal was, I'll write, you won't pay me for it, because I didn't feel like you should write, you should be paid for something that just comes out of accident. And then during that time is when we had our first private channel, which was 24 hours. They had very little programming, so the rest of the time had CNN on. And I was so excited about this, getting American programming, because we had British programming. And what I did when everybody was asleep is learn English. Yeah, I sat down at 3 o'clock in the morning, and if they say this is CNN, that's what I did too. I just repeated the words and so on and so forth.
And so you hadn't learned English beforehand in school or something?
It's average English. It's like any other school. But I wanted to be excellent. So I thought, okay, if they're as good as they say, I mean, why not? So, and then we got digital phones, which were made in Kenya. Not assembled, made in Kenya, in Kigiru, in the Rift Valley. And these were not the router phones that you had from before. These were digit phones. And being the nerd I am, I could crack, what do you say? Crack is a nice way of saying I could make free calls.
The pirating streak never went away, Daniel.
No, it was there. So I made these free calls. And the beauty is I figured a way to make international calls.
Oh, goodness.
So yeah, I have English, watching from TV, learning English from TV, writing poetry from a heartbreak, and then I can practice my English making calls to whoever. So you call the States and hope it lands on a person who can...
Some random stranger.
Yes, hopefully a stranger who can, you can practice your English on. And the funny thing, the first week I made that call, there was, which state are you calling from? I'm like, Kenya. Where is that? Is it in Texas? I'm like, no, it's in Africa. And the confusion. So over time, I think, probably, I'm one of those people who made that company to go on the downfall. I mean, because I think every day I used to make like 5 calls or something.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
And were you ever caught for that, Daniel?
No.
Okay.
But in my defense, every time I found a way to crack the call, I used to call the phone company and tell them to patch it up.
Oh.
I used to tell them the tricks.
Oh, my.
Because it was very simple. You have a 12-digit code, then you hang it up, and then you put 4 digits. Uh-huh. It's kind of like a password, right. the way a computer works. So, but it was terrestrial. Terrestrial lines are easy to break. Very easy to break. So, yeah. So
according to the pirate. So then you were telling me a story actually about how you got into film, because you write poetry, you have a blog,
yes,
and we'll have all of those links up on africacreates.net.
Yes.
You also have a YouTube channel, and you were telling me a story which I found quite humorous about how you got into storytelling via sort of video or visual storytelling.
Okay, so you're watching TV and you wonder why they never feature this person or that person, or stories that you'd like, stories that entertain you, excite you. So I thought, since I started writing poetry, I started writing articles, and I majored on 3 parts: technology, health, and entertainment. And that's the time Kenya was exploding with new talent, because we had very great artists in the 1960s, 70s, and then it just slumped in the 80s because of the oppression in the 90s. And then the late 90s, it just exploded again. Culture exploded again, and there was this beauty and brilliance. There was fashion, there was music, everybody had a studio because of computers came, so everybody had a studio in their bedroom somewhere. So we started working, and these people are my friends, because if you're a writer, you're sent for a story, you meet models, you meet artists, and these people are your friends, and they're like, we're doing it for promotion. I didn't understand that. You either do it professionally or you don't, and that's my mantra. And professionally, you do it well, learn it well. I mean, it's good to go to school, but if you can have great mentors. So I'm sitting there, and so I've been writing articles. I've gotten published on anthologies, and this time I've gotten comfortable to write on my name, under my name. So after a while, as the story goes on, you realize there's no films, and I wasn't very much into pictures. Taking pictures was because in those days, even the Moi day, you found a guy walking with a camera saying, "I'm a camera person." I didn't understand that, so I thought, why don't we do films? And it was extremely expensive. So one time I'm seated at an event, a major event, fashion event. I think it was an American event. And this guy goes like, who can shoot? I'm like, me. I've never handled a camera in my life.
Oh dear.
But I thought it works as like the VCR, and I used to open the VCR. I just waited for my dad to leave, and all the electronics could be opened, and see how it works or something. I don't know if I can put it back. I'm not an engineer, but I just like to open it up to see how the inside
and hopefully you were able to put everything back together before your parents came home.
Just so long as it works, who will tell? Yeah, but my dad was very keen. You could leave things and put marks which you couldn't see. Color. He's a scientist, so yeah. So I picked this camera up, and I shoot my first film. I was very scared. Sorry about that. I was very scared, and despite being scared, I was very excited to, because sound and picture and covering all these things. And the camera was on VHS. It was a high 8, so it ran on those big tapes. So a couple years later, we started something called Kenya Music Week, which is a festival where you bring artists together to trade music, because before that you couldn't buy any music. You didn't know where to buy music, especially if you live in an estate or uptown. Yeah. So we brought this into a shopping mall where you could walk in, you could buy your music, and then the backside I insisted that we have a professional sound, yeah, a professional stage and those kind of things. And then with the team that we had, they also thought, let's have a forum where you bring international experts to train these people onto what music is. 10 years down the line, I'm no longer there, but the legacy moves on, and we have amazing artists. But coming back to filming, so in between that period, I started shooting shows, TV shows basically, and I didn't want to be on screen. I've been told I need to be on screen, but I'm very shy. So I thought, what do I do? You have only two options. You can be a producer and have the headache or heartache of getting all the funding, or you can be a director and shout at everybody.
Which sounds much more fun.
Yeah, and I tend to look like a kid, I don't look my age. So, and I'm not into sports, so I mean, shouting at people is pretty nice, especially if the outcome is awesome. So, yeah, so I became a film director, and I think I read three pages from a book, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna read, I'm just gonna do it. And that's how I started. I did two TV shows for Citizen TV. I think it's the third independent television channel. One was a comedy, a hidden camera show. The first one we did, and that's a couple years back. And today everybody is doing a hidden camera show. We never had hidden camera. And then the second thing we did was kind of like an educative show. When you come to Nairobi, everybody knows when you go to a city, you'll be conned. So we were giving out the tricks. But then fine, beyond that, we did a lot of things onto DVD. We wanted to develop the DVD market. We did music compilations. So those kind of things.
Right.
Very artistic stuff. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And we were discussing just before we started the interview about the importance of telling our stories. And you were quite passionate, I would say, about that. Can you just repeat what you had told me? Because I found it very informative.
I think if you have to move forward, you have to capture the now. I mean, look at Egypt. They might be having their problems right now, but they have written history that dates back and of wherever. We need to tell our stories. And when I say we, is everybody needs to tell our story, but especially as Africans, we need to tell our stories. And right now we have the tools. Back in the day, like I was telling you, so I'm filming. It's a big movie set, and we have all these people. We didn't have funding. That's a problem. But you call a guy, he has a camera. You call another guy, he can give you a car, and so we're filming this thing, and then you run out of battery. Yeah, and you're in the middle you're in the wild. So I see this tourist girl, and she has a small camera, and I go like, can I borrow that? And she looking at me like she can't trust me, but I give her my camera, my big expensive camera that I'd borrowed. Hold on to that. Can I borrow your camera? So I borrow the camera and go like, does he have a video function? She goes like, yes. I didn't know that would work, but I just had to capture the moment. So I go and film this thing, and when it's done, we can't figure out how to transfer the material. So anyway, let me just put this off. So after a while, after 3 days, I get the material, and it's easy to work with, number one, and it's of a higher quality than the tapes we have. And this is a big camera, they cost a lot of money. So I thought, wait a minute, we can actually use portable devices to shoot.
Right.
So I picked the first camera I can get, the commercial camera with a video function. And this was a couple years back, I think 8 or 9 years back. Little did I know, in the future there's going to be something called user-generated content. Today you have mobile phones that shoot on HD. And in terms of filming, if you get the sound right, you get the picture. So the challenge is, and that's the same in a big camera, on a big camera, or on a mobile device. So that was the genesis of that. And going back to that, I didn't know it's gonna, because after that I was like, we are filming, we are somewhere, let's just film, yeah. And then on the music event that we did every Saturday, I met this kid. It was just a kid shooting. It turned out to be one of the best photojournalists in Kenya. It's called Boniface Mwangi. So I couldn't do pictures. And also I didn't say that when I was a kid in primary school, that's like grade school, yeah. I had these two cartoonists. One was called Victor and the other one Stano. And Stano could draw the way you are, but he used to draw me with big ears, you know what I mean? So I couldn't draw to save my life.
Obviously making fun of you.
Exactly. And Victor used to do landscapes, and he was very artistic. So that's the background. I was never born into an artistic family, you know, people. Only my father loved music, and my father loved rumba, so I wasn't gonna go rumba. But my grandfather liked Bee Gees and all these people. So I fell in between. You know, I went to the rock way, and I liked noise and loudness. You know, I mean, just wake up the neighbors at night.
With your pirated radio station.
Yes.
Your pirated phone.
And pirated phone. So,
Goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's in your plans now, Daniel? What does the future hold for you? What do you envision?
Right now, because we have distribution, that's been a major problem since I'm in Memorial. Now we have the tools. We marry the tools and the talent. Yeah. I think right now what I want to do is tell our stories on a bigger scale, but not personally, because everything I've done is because of the mentors that have carried me. So I have to give back to the society, give back to the people, and take the next generation. Yeah, very passionate. Use the tools we have. I don't think everybody should have a radio station or a TV station or whatever, but everybody has a story that should be captured. Yeah, you can write a book. You can, but now you have a camera. You have you have text. You have image. Put it out there. So for me, that's the idea. I wanna tell all our stories. If I can teach people how to film, how to write, and then they do it themselves. And let's have 1,000, let's have 1,000,000 stories. Yeah, let's have our local stories, and then build that into quality work. I mean, we can have dramas, we can have films, why not? Yeah, and it's about time we got serious about this, because if we don't tell our stories, I think we're dying inside. Yeah,
We'll lose a part of our history.
And part of ourselves. You know, it's about the now, it's about the future, but it's about enjoying your now, your life. And then let's explore each other's spaces. I like traveling, and I like going back and counting the experiences, not the places, the faces, but the experiences and who you share them with. So that's exciting for me. So I'm seeing in a couple of years probably a Pan-African wide media, which is very open, not oppressed at all. It should be very open. I think everybody should be open to express themselves, and also a sense of education in terms of, schooling is great, I agree, but there are many levels of schooling. If you can do it yourself and own your skill to be the best you can, why not? Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at.
Thank you, Daniel. I'm chatting with Daniel on Africa Creates. Pop by africacreates.net to get more links and links to his blog and his YouTube channel, and find out more about Daniel and our other artists. So we look forward to seeing you on our blog, and we will chat with you next week. Perfect.